one more time. Hey, don't you want a washboard stomach and rock-hard pecs?
No, I want a flabby gut and saggy man breasts.
Meet the Mets.
We're talking baseball. We'll be talking pickups, trades, who's hot, who's not, sleepers and busts, how these players perform and what it means to their teams and what to look for. That's the Armchair Quarterbacks, talking baseball. The Armchair Quarterbacks radio show.
Where do they go?
Make contact. A collective psychosis is sweeping the nation. We're in the thick of the haze craze, and Elysian is introducing an altered state of IPA. Contact Haze is a tangled chemistry of mild haze, low bitterness, and an explosion of hop aroma. This hazy IPA bursts with notes of bright raspberry, currant, citrus, guava, and passion fruit. Available in 6-pack cans in stores and all Seattle Elysian locations. Make contact.
I'm a Vol fan. I still think getting to the championship is a big deal.
Take the road less traveled in the newly redesigned Hyundai Santa Fe. With available H-Track all-wheel drive to help you get off the beaten path a little further together. And intuitive safety features that can help you see what's waiting around the bend. Plus, with generous room for 5 and comfortable available Napa leather seating, you can go for more drives as a family without driving each other crazy. Find new adventures together in the Hyundai Santa Fe.
If we actually enjoyed our New Year's resolutions, we'd all have 6-packs, money in our saving accounts, and we'd know how to play the piano. I have to tell you about the one resolution I actually enjoy. It's Built Bar. It's delicious. Oh, yeah, it's healthy, too. Built Bar is healthier than your favorite protein bar. They're low-cal, low sugar, high protein, high fiber, great for the keto diet. Lose or maintain weight while indulging. And with only 4 net carbs and 150 calories, there's no guilt. Visit BuiltBar.com.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks Show. We're here weekdays. Drive time? Find the Armchair Quarterbacks Show on Facebook today.
Remember, if for any reason you must leave your radio, please have the man at the door stamp your ear so you can listen again later.
Okay. I'm ready to rock.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks. We are Armchair Quarterbacks on Facebook. Find us today.
What's happening in sports? Find out when it happens. Get the CBS Sports app free in the Android Market and iTunes App Store.
Amazon Prime members now get free grocery delivery with a minimum order. You'll get your groceries with 2-hour delivery. So in that time, you can finally figure out where the biblioteca is. Learn how to play the acoustic guitar, and I guess get a puka shell necklace. Do a makeup tutorial, but realize halfway contouring is hard, and you're beautiful just as you are. Whatever it is you're doing with your time, your shopper will be carefully picking out your favorite organic meats, produce, dairy, and snacks, while providing contactless delivery to your door. Free 2-hour grocery delivery, now with Prime.
The Armchair Quarterbacks Wake-Up Show, the rock and roll of sports talk radio. So turn that auto-tune and mumble crap off from the other guys.
Cool. Wizard versus nerd. I'll strike you down with my spell. No, science is the answer.
In our sundown perambulations of late, through the outer parts of Brooklyn, we have observed several parties of youngsters playing base, a certain game of ball. Let us go forth a while and get better air in our lungs. Let us leave our close rooms. The game of ball is glorious. Walt Whitman. Brooklyn Eagle, 1846.
We have been hoodwinked, bamboozled, and flat out deceived.
There's something kind of about a kid that's never played baseball.
Make sure to listen to the Armchair Quarterbacks. Good enough for us down here in the bayou. Go Tigers and the Armchair Quarterbacks.
It's morning.
Yes, and what a lovely morning. Good morning.
Good morning. We've talked the whole night through.
Good morning.
Good morning to you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
first base. Now, whoever it is drops the ball, so Valentine runs to second.
Yes.
Now, I pick up the ball, and I throw it to who? Whoever it is drops the ball, he throws it to Watts. Watts throws it, I don't know, throws it back to tomorrow. A triple play.
That's right.
Another guy gets up, and it's a long fly ball to be caught. Why? I don't know. He's on third, and I don't give a damn. I don't give a damn.
Oh, that's our shortstop.
Armchair.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on CBS Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Good morning, and this is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. It's opening day in baseball, and that's really all we give a damn about. So here we go. First pitch is 1:05 Eastern. Toronto versus New York. Ryu up against Garrett Cole. Cleveland against Detroit at 1:10. Shane Bieber versus Matthew Boyd. The Twins and Brewers will do battle at 2:10. Maeda versus Woodruff. And Baltimore and Boston, same start time. It's Means versus Eovaldi. At 2:20 Eastern, the Chicago Cubs take the field in Wrigley. Kyle Hendricks against Chad Kuhl. And at 3:05 Eastern, it's the Atlanta Braves and Max Fried going head-to-head versus Aaron Nola and the Philadelphia Phillies against the backdrop of the Liberty Bell. At 4:10, you got the Cardinals and Reds. Jack Flaherty versus Luis Castillo. Should be a hell of a opening day in where Major League Baseball all began in Cincinnati 152 years ago. The Texas Rangers and Kansas City Royals are also starting at 4:10 Eastern. Kyle Gibson versus Brad Keller, along with Arizona and San Diego, Madison Bumgarner versus Yu Darvish. The Rays and Marlins in Miami, Tyler Glasnow versus Sandy Alcantara. And the national ESPN game will be the Dodgers versus the Rockies, Clayton Kershaw versus Marquez. At 7:09 on ESPN, the New York Mets and Jacob deGrom travel to D.C. to take on Max Scherzer and the 2019 world champion Washington Nationals. In your late games, 10:05 Eastern, White Sox at Angels, Lucas Giolito against Dylan Bundy. At 10:07, Houston and Oakland, Greinke versus Bassett. And the last game of the night at 10:10 Eastern, San Francisco goes to Seattle. It's Kevin Gausman versus Marco Gonzalez. Enjoy opening day, folks. We missed out on this last year. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for more of the Armchair Quarterbacks radio show and YouTube Live. Please like, subscribe, and share our show today. The Armchair Quarterbacks, your first choice for sports talk live from the First Coast. Good morning. It's time to wake up, y'all. You're listening to the Armchair Quarterback Show. We're here weekdays, 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 Central, the Armchair Quarterback Show, your first choice for Southern sports talk. Good morning. And I don't know much, but I know one thing. We've waited 2 damn years for an actual opening day. 2 damn years. Let's get this party started. God dog it, are you ready? Because I am. We've got Yankees and Blue Jays to kick us off today. The Braves and Phillies mid-afternoon. You got a bunch of great games in the 4 o'clock slate. And then you've got Scherzer versus deGrom at 7 p.m. Eastern for the national game of the week. It doesn't get any better than this.
Hear what I said? I mean, I'm going to the show.
You know what the difference between hitting 250 and 300 is? It's 25 hits. 25 hits and 500 at-bats is 50 points, okay? There's 6 months in a season. That's about 25 weeks. That means if you get just one extra flare a week, just one, a gork, you get a ground ball, you get a ground ball with eyes, you get a dying quail, just one more dying quail a week, and you're in Yankee Stadium.
Armchair.
Community Access Channel.
He's the armchair quarterback. He's full of beer and he's full of snacks. The all-American man.
morning to you. Welcome to the Armchair Quarterback Radio Show. I'm Mac McGee, and we've got Joey Ariola on the way. So stay tuned for that. He'll be here in just a few minutes. And we are talking opening day today. Obviously, since this is my primarily football, baseball show, you can imagine the excitement for all the guys with opening day finally coming back. I don't really count what we did last year as having an opening day. Yeah, we had a first day of baseball, but when it's in the middle of July and no fans whatsoever in the stands, I get it that it's a little weird because most stadiums are between 20 to 30% capacity, but at least there's fans in most of the stands. I don't believe anyone has a mandate where you can't have any fans in the stands. I don't believe. Now, I'm not 100% positive on some of the states. I do believe that you're going to get them even in the northeastern states. I'm not positive about Washington, D.C. because they have been as loony as anybody. So that game tonight with the Mets and the Nationals may not have fans in the stands, but it'll remain to be seen because so much of it was rumored back and forth. It was kind of hard to keep up with during the off season, but we've got a great show for you. We're going to be doing predictions. I'm going to be matching the predictions up, and I'm going to add a couple of different predictions that we haven't done during the week. Joey's going to give us his divisions. If you've been listening all week, you know what everyone else has been saying. I'll lay that on him, and then I'm going to give you my rookies of the year because we haven't gotten to that this year, and I've got a couple of rookies of the year that I think are bound to shine. We'll probably talk a little fantasy baseball. This is a baseball show today. Joey only comes on once a week, so we will probably talk a little Final Four and a tad bit about the NFL, but this is a baseball show. Baseball is back. Opening day is back. It's been 2 damn years since we've had a real opening day with fans in the stands in April/late March where it belongs. And so every single team in Major League Baseball is set to play today. And as far as the weather, I think most of the parks have manageable weather. I do know that the Mets Nationals game in DC tonight, it's going to be in the 40s with a 20-mile-an-hour wind by mid game. So if there's not fans allowed in the stands, you might want to consider yourself lucky because who the hell wants to sit in 40? I mean, you're talking about a wind chill of around 20s or 30s. I can just tell you as a Florida kid, man, that's not my cup of tea. But I would love to be an opening day anywhere. Unfortunately, I don't live anywhere close to a baseball park, but I would love to be anywhere where there's baseball being played today. And we look forward to it. It's wall-to-wall baseball today. Tomorrow's a little lighter slate, and then it gets back into the normal action. I want to say there's only about, if memory serves, I think there's only 4 or 5 games tomorrow, and they don't begin until the evening. The great thing about living in the state of Florida, though, is that Florida will have the Marlins and the Rays are doing battle to start the season off, which I think is great. I think they should do that every year with the Marlins and Rays, but they will be playing Friday night as well. So I look forward to that, to actually have a game to watch that I care about at 7:10 Eastern. So Friday night, it's Dodgers, Rockies, White Sox, Angels, A's, Astros, Padres, D-backs, and Giants, Mariners. It's a little strange. There's only one East Coast game, that is being played. The rest of the teams, it's West Coast versus West Coast ish. I guess if you count the White Sox, they're more Midwest, and the Astros are along that same line, but it's Central Time Zone. There's no teams in the Eastern Time Zone on Friday after Rays Marlins. So that's interesting. But it gets all started today at 1:05 Eastern. That game will be on ESPN. If you don't have the Major League Baseball package, I do. I'm going to be loaded, ready for all Bear Arms at 2 o'clock Eastern. Cannot wait. There are so many games going to be going on. So we're going to take a quick trip around the nation to see what's going on today. And, of course, if you're playing fantasy baseball, you're excited about that. This is a public service announcement. Set your damn lineups. There's a chance that they moved around, et cetera, et cetera. You people know what I mean. So make sure to set an alarm on your phone sometime around late morning to say, I need to check and make sure every dude I've got in there is in there, because there are some concerns. There are some Washington Nationals. I haven't seen the total list, but there are some Washington Nationals that are going to be in the COVID protocol issues. So we will look into that, but outside of that, we are full bore ready to go for opening day. Garrett Cole versus Ryu should be a hell of a matchup. 5 players are going to miss opening day for the Washington Nationals, and I'm trying to pull up and find out where see what we got here. Positive tests came back in which 33 players tested positive. That's for the entire spring. What is the actual, what's the doom and gloom? Get the hell out of here with the doom and gloom, USA Today. All right. I don't have an actual breakdown of the players. I don't know who the hell is actually in the protocol, but it says 5 Nationals will miss the openers. And I don't know if they just haven't released the complete list. It looks like that they have not. So that's why you're not seeing it. It just says 5 Nationals. That may or may not be all players. So I don't believe Scherzer was affected. I'm pretty sure Soto was not affected. Or Soto had a positive test last year at opening day. So, but anyways, back to opening day. Blue Jays Yankees get to start off. That's 1 o'clock Eastern on ESPN. If you've got the Major League Baseball package, you've got some other games that you can look forward to at 1:10 Eastern. Shane Bieber takes the mound. Cleveland versus Detroit. Looking forward to that. 2 o'clock. There's another wave of games that come on. What is it? 1, 2, 3 more games start in the 2 o'clock hour. At 2:10, you got Minnesota, Milwaukee. That's Maeda versus Woodruff. That's a hell of a pitching matchup right there. And then Baltimore and Boston, they do battle. Means versus Eovaldi. Should be some runs scored there. Pittsburgh is going to take on the Cubs in Wrigley. It's Chad Kuhl versus Kyle Hendricks. You give the nod to the Cubs on opening day with Hendricks. I am interested to see how this Chad Kuhl performs on opening day. Remember, they lost Musgrove in the trade to San Diego. So Kuhl is now their quote-unquote ace. He's not quite an ace at this point in his career, but he's the best pitcher that the Pirates have. And then at 3:05, Atlanta Braves, Philadelphia Phillies. Max Fried takes the mound against Aaron Nola. And that should be a whale of a ball game. Remember, it was just a few years ago. I want to say that was the 2018. It might have been the 2017. I'm almost positive it was 2018 opening day, where Braves, Phillies opening day, and Gabe Kapler essentially signed his doom because on opening day he pulled Aaron Nola out of the game. It was the 6th inning. He'd only thrown like 60-something pitches, and he pulls him out of the game. The Phillies had a comfortable lead. It wasn't a commanding lead. It was like 3 or 4 runs, and the Braves came charging back in the late innings, had a walk-off, and people that day wanted to fire Gabe Kapler. So he ended up getting fired because of that a season later, and he of course is now in San Francisco. But I guarantee you that Philly gets a big lead. with Aaron Nola on the mound today, there's not going to be any going to the bullpen in the 5th inning or 6th inning. I wouldn't think, unless if the pitch count is high. Of course, you're not going to put your stud, your ace in harm's way. But outside of that, that was a ridiculous game. I remember we were doing that game live at the local restaurant back when we used to do this on Monday nights, and we had a special opening day. That was a really fun day, by the way. We did that, and people stayed up till all hours drinking beers and whatnot, after the show, watching the late games. And I remember being live on the air and the Braves come roaring back, and we could not believe it. Justin and I were jumping through the roof, and it was a hell of an opening day. So I look for a repeat for this year for opening day. And at 4:00, you got the 4:00 hour. There's a lot of games, by the way, but you've got the Cincinnati Reds hosting the Cardinals. And what you want to see there is, can Jack Flaherty bounce back? I took him in some fantasy leagues, but he did not look good last year. He looked anything but good. So you were a little skeptical on how that's going to play out. But Jack Flaherty, for all intents and purposes, is their ace. And remember, Mikolas is on the DL. They think they won't get him back till late May, if then. So this is a Cardinals starting rotation that has a lot of questions. I do think they have enough to win the division. And remember, it's the debut of Arenado coming from Colorado over to St. Louis in that big trade during the offseason. So we look forward to that. And of course, Castillo, the starter for the Reds. If you've not watched this kid pitch, he is phenomenal. Absolutely phenomenal. The other games at 4:00, Texas and Kansas City. No one's getting crazy about that. It's Gibson versus Keller. Take the over. By the way, we are bringing back the pick'ems starting today. So the skin in the game, the Justin and I always do. Justin will be back next week. I'm bringing that back today, and we'll keep up with that all year. Madison Bumgarner, Madison Bumgarner and the Arizona Diamondbacks go to San Diego, so you get the first look at the new look Padres. Yu Darvish is on the mound, so that's a fun one. The Rays and Marlins talked about that a second ago. They're at 4:00. That's Glasnow versus Sandy Alcantara. What a hell of a pitching matchup that's going to be. That Alcantara kid, I'm telling you, is very, very underrated. I'm going to go ahead and kill that music. I didn't even realize that thing was still bebopping in my ear. That's a very underrated opening day starting pitching matchup. Alcantara shows flashes all the time of greatness, and then he'll go out and he'll throw a dud, and you're like, oh God, what do we got here again? This is a big year for Sandy Alcantara. If he wants to take that next step, this is where it begins. If not, you fall into the oblivion of a lot of Marlins starting pitchers over the years, where you're excited about their potential, but you never quite see it put all together. The last time the Marlins had a real stud on the mound, that every time he walked out there, it was bad news. It was the great Fernandez that passed away in the boating accident. What was that, 3-4 years ago? Typically, you get these young pitchers from the Marlins, and there's a lot of reasons why, but they don't fully develop. And they rebuild. They give up on them. They trade them away. Other teams put them in their bullpen, et cetera, et cetera. Sandy Alcantara, this is a big start. This is a big year for him. And so that's at 4:10 Eastern. That'll be on live locally here in Florida, depending on your cable company. But you can catch it on either the Rays or the Marlins broadcast network. It really depends on where you live. And then 4:10, the national game of the day is a dud. The ESPN game is a dud. It's the Dodgers versus the Cardinals. I'm sorry, not Cardinals. Excuse me. Dodgers versus the Rockies. You want to see the Dodgers the defending World Series champions. And don't give me that garbage about how they won it in a pandemic year. They still won. I'm not going to take it away from them. Now, if I run into a Dodger fan, you damn right I'm going to give them hell about it. But that's just all in fun as a sports fan. But from a logical standpoint, you can't take that away from them because they just followed the same protocols and the same rules that everyone else had to. But they're playing the Rockies, although German Marquez is a pretty good pitcher. I just don't ever see Colorado put a lot of runs up throughout this entire year. I don't expect to see it. And it's got a dull flavor to it because the Rockies are supposed to be possibly the worst team in baseball. So that was a bad job by Major League Baseball. I'm not going to blame ESPN per se, but I'm going to blame Major League Baseball for giving us the world champions against, I mean, at least put them up against the Giants. At least that's a rivalry, a real rivalry. And you can get behind watching that. But the Colorado LA series, that needs to be tucked away in the late April. So that's a bad job by Major League Baseball, but we live with it. There's plenty of other games if you got the package or locally, whoever you're listening, wherever you're listening to these fine CBS stations, or if you're watching on YouTube live, you've got plenty of other options to watch games, unless you just happen to be in the Los Angeles, Colorado market, right? And then essentially you're screwed. Or if you're in a market that doesn't get any of these teams. But there's quite a few that'll be going on during that time period. And then you get yourself some dinner, you get nestled in, get on the couch, and 7:09 first pitch, it's Jacob deGrom versus Max Scherzer. That's mano-a-mano, arguably the two best starting pitchers in the National League, and they're going to be rolling going in on first pitch, and I cannot wait for that. The only thing that sucks about this entire thing is that the A-Rod booth crew is going to be there, and they're just terrible. And from my understanding, from what I listened to last night and early this morning, a couple of outlets, they're going with the same crew that they had: Vasgersian, A-Rod, and I believe Mendoza is going to be in the booth, but we'll find out. They're unlistenable. I cannot listen to them. Vasgersian's not terrible broadcasting in a nutshell at a game. I don't like his shtick that he does on MLB Network in the mornings during the offseason because it's so played out. I don't know if y'all have ever listened or watched that show, but he does a morning show called Hot Stove with Harold Reynolds. Harold Reynolds is phenomenal. And Vasgersian wouldn't be terrible if he would just quit it with this stupid sound machine that he plays like every 30 seconds. He plays a clip out of it. He records people during the show and then plays it again as if they're reacting live. And he just thinks it's the funniest and most creative thing. And it's the crappiest thing I've ever ran into. It is one thing to do it every great once in a while. If that's your shtick, okay, whatever. But to have to deal with that for an entire, I think it's a 2-hour show, 5 days a week. And what sucked this offseason is that because of the pandemic, he wasn't taking any of his paid absences. Because normally the dude's on like 2, maybe 3 times a week at the tops on the regular. And he's constantly being replaced. And the replacements are actually much better than Vasgersian. Much better. Because they don't have the goofy, stupid sound machine that they think is so funny. But anyways, we're going to be stuck with that as the broadcast team tonight. I'm going to turn it on for a second just to make sure who's broadcasting. I want to know who the third person in the booth is. I believe it's still Mendoza, and she is just unlistenable. Her and A-Rod, I mean, they could just send them out on a desert island now and just let them talk at each other for the end of time, and I would not miss them one damn bit. 10 o'clock tonight, you got some first pitches. I believe that the national game is Houston, Oakland, and of course they want that because First time that Houston's going to play in front of fans since the trash can conspiracy came out. But you got the White Sox playing the Angels. That's Lucas Giolito versus Dylan Bundy. By the way, Astros in Oakland is Greinke and Bassett. And then the Giants, Kevin Gausman against Marco Gonzalez. And so with all that being said, an incredible opening day. You've got a lot of really good pitchers that we look forward to seeing. And I, for one, cannot wait. We're going to go ahead and take a quick break here with the Armchair Quarterbacks here on opening day. And when we come back, Joey Areola is going to join us, and we're going to dive in to predictions. Absolutely cannot wait as opening day 2021 is back.
It measures just 9 inches in circumference, weighs only about 5 ounces, and is made of cork wound with woolen yarn, covered with 2 layers of cowhide, and stitched by hand precisely 216 times. It travels 60 feet 6 inches from the pitcher's mound to home, and it can cover that distance at nearly 100 miles an hour. Along the way, it can be made to twist, spin, curve, wobble, rise, or fall away. The bat is made of turned ash, less than 42 inches long, not more than 2 3/4 inches in diameter. The batter has only a few thousandths of a second to decide to hit the ball. And yet the men who fail 7 times out of 10 are considered the game's greatest heroes.
I'll be honest, fellas, it was sounding great, but I could have used a little more cowbell.
It's time to jump into DraftKings. Go to DraftKings today at DraftKings.com. Golf, NASCAR, soccer, you name it. And of course, Major League Baseball, basketball, hockey, and football. Go to DraftKings.com. Listen to the Armchair Quarterbacks for DFS advice all year round.
Oh, wow. I'm pretty sure that's going to be there it is. Another flag on the play.
Multiple flags on the play. Holding. Offense number 97. That penalty was declined. Touchdown. After the play, unsportsmanlike conduct. Offense number 22. Penalty will be applied to the kickoff.
This is going to be one of the strangest calls.
That son of a... You playing against Dick this week? Yeah. Could be worse, man. When I played against him, he ejected all my players.
What?
Armchair.
Lager, the beer that brought the forest down.
I drive an exotic imported sports car. I eat exotic foreign food like frankfurters and pizza. But when it comes to numbing my mind, I'm a patriot. I drink the beer that brought the forest down. I'm a lager man. And with the new 80-bottle trunk pack, you've got enough for the evening. Hey, it's happy hour somewhere.
Lager brings out the patriot in you.
The Armchair Quarterbacks, ESPN Radio's public enemy number 1. Weekdays, your first choice for sports talk here in the Southeast.
What happens when 5 eligible bachelors welcome a little girl into their lives?
Hey, it's my turn in the bathroom.
Non-stop hilarity. My 5 uncles.
Hey, Gina, welcome to your new home. You sleep in there, and we all sleep in here.
The show that shows family values exist even in unconventional families.
Oh, what are you guys doing in there?
Taking hilarious comedy in a whole new funny direction.
I don't get it. Why don't any of you guys have a steady girlfriend? I'm an emotionally abused orphan. Can I get in on any of these group hugs?
My 5 uncles, Thursday nights on LSBC.
I only had a brain.
You're riding Morning Shotgun, your first choice for sports talk here on the First Coast, only on
Armchair.
We live in a world now that welcomes and nurtures the screwball in all of us.
Hey, it's a new decade, people. Time to get a little nutty. Treat yourself to Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey, a smooth flavor that combines two of America's favorites, peanut butter and American whiskey. So no more social awkwardness. Time to embrace who you truly are. Get out there and make friends. And be sure it starts with Screwball Peanut Butter Whiskey. It's available nearly everywhere. Learn more at screwballwhiskey.com. Infinium Spirits. Please enjoy responsibly.
Pretty good. It's pretty good.
First thing about it, and this seems so obvious that maybe we overlook it. Baseball is a beautiful thing. It's more beautiful in an old park that's asymmetrical and quirky, but even, and I hate to say this because it might encourage them, but even in a dome with artificial turf, it's beautiful. The way the field fans out, the choreography of the sport, the pace and rhythm of it, the fact that that pace and rhythm allows for conversation and reflection and opinion and comparison.
It's a pastime, something you do. It's entertainment, something you watch. And it's a shared experience, something you talk about and read about. And that's marvelous. But you can apply those same three criteria to other things. What makes baseball special is that it's the best game that's ever been devised.
Stripes are so much more than that old piece of cloth on your grandma's porch. It gave us that American dream to be anything that we want to be. It don't matter where you are, from a one-room church to an uptown bar. Don't care if you're black.
Welcome back here to CBS Sports Radio, YouTube Live. Good morning, y'all. And joining us, Joe, you got your man cave set up now. You got all your wait a minute, did you do that decorating or did your brother do that decorating? Because all I see is Buccaneers stuff behind you.
So basically what happened is I get to a couple locations. This is my work from home location. So for now I'm in the Bucs cave, but I will be transferring soon to a new living place where my Colts man cave / Cubs will be set up.
Gotcha. I was about to say, I don't think you got enough votes in on at least get something blue behind you.
I got my Javi Baez jersey. I'm ready for 1:20 start time, though.
There you go. Happy opening day, sir. I am so glad. I was talking about this earlier. I feel like we didn't have one last year. It didn't feel the same. Granted, you only have around 20 to 30% fan capacity. But at least there's fans in the stands, and so the fans can participate in opening day, and that's the key. And baseball is going to be the sport that leads everyone out of the darkness as the summer goes on and increases their capacity. Baseball is going to be the one that you're going to see, I believe, first time a full capacity is going to be at a baseball stadium. And then hopefully that continues on and filters into the football season.
No, yeah, like you said, we can only hope with summer coming up, more vaccine. The baseball is kind of taken over, and we know Rangers have full. Even in Chicago, the Cubs and Sox are both having, I believe, about 8,000 fans a game. So, they're going to lead us out of this, and it's going to be a great opening day. Last year we only got 60 something games. That's not the true. This is the true baseball season back.
Right. And, and the thing about opening day, if no one's ever been to an opening day that's listening, it's not just the game that goes on. There is fanfare all around the stadium, outside the stadium, after the game, before the game. Like Cincinnati, they're playing. I just had it up because we were just talking about it. I think they're the 4:00 game. So Cincinnati will most likely they have a parade every year, and they're probably going to do a dumbed down version of it this year, but they'll do it before the game. And so you have the parade, you have the game, and then there's festivities afterwards. Obviously, because of the COVID restrictions, it won't be as much, but you're going to have some big damn fun things to do. And it's all about the fans. Granted, we love to watch the players, but it's fun to see the fans back in the stands, and that's where we go with. Before we dive into baseball predictions, real quick, what are your thoughts on the Final Four? Because I think we're going to look at one of the least watched Final Fours in the history March Madness, because you have 4 teams that are all west of the Mississippi playing. And that's just not good for anybody. It's not good for the sport. It's not good for CBS, who is going to be broadcasting it. And then for the average fan, it makes the rooting interest a little dull if you're not from those areas.
Yeah, no, you bring up a first great point. I was going to say not too interested because of how Gonzaga looks, but then when you say all West Coast, that is even not having anybody on the East or close to it with the Midwest, that's a little tough. Usually you get a Big Ten or, somebody from the Carolinas, the Duke area, all that. So I could definitely see it being less watched. And I mean, at this point, I was wrong. I said Gonzaga eventually would probably lose before the championship, which still could happen. But I just think they're playing too darn good. And I know UCLA was a little bit of a wonder, and they're Baylor as a 1 seed on the other side. But I almost feel like maybe it is Gonzaga's time. And I
think we're heading for a runaway freight train of 2 colliding, and it's going to be Gonzaga versus Baylor. Houston's good, but I just don't think for 40 minutes they're going to be able to keep up with that Baylor defense. And I believe Gonzaga is actually going to blow the doors off of UCLA. UCLA beat you with half-court offense, a stingy defense. When you watch that Gonzaga offense, they run it in such a fashion that there's always somebody open. They're the opposite of what Florida State does. Florida State stands around and plays street ball and waits for someone to make an incredible one-on-one play. And with their athletes, they usually pull it off enough times to get a W. But when they get played the elite teams, it goes to the wayside. Gonzaga has so much movement, so much cutting, coming off of screens. They're constantly putting pressure on you if you're playing defense. I just think UCLA is going to get worn down. And unless Gonzaga is just ice cold from like their 72 players that they have coming off their bench, then I just think I don't think UCLA has got the dogs, but congratulations to them getting that far. I just think this is where it ends. I give Houston a much better chance of upsetting Baylor than I do UCLA beating Gonzaga.
Agreed.
And I personally want to see Baylor versus Gonzaga now. Now that the dust is cleared and there's no Cinderella story that I'm interested in, because I still can't call UCLA a Cinderella story. I know you're way too young and I'm way too young because I don't even I was born during the tail end of their heydays, but I was a kid. I didn't start watching basketball where I could actually watch it and remember it until the very early to mid 80s. So by the time that UCLA, you would hear about this storied UCLA, but they were garbage at that point. And they've only had a few, I'd say they had about 5 really good years since I've been watching college basketball. And that dates back to about 1982, 83-ish. So UCLA basketball to me is like when people tell you about how badass the Army football team was in the 1940s. You're like, yeah, well, that's great, man. And I'm sure they were. But now not every kid wants to go to West Point, and you got some issues. Yeah. It was also before the color barrier was broken. So yeah, Army's out there beating the crap out of, the second ranked team in the country was Yale. Right. And all those guys at the end of the season, they didn't go play in the National Football League. They went and became lawyers. So that's the feeling to me about UCLA is I can't call them an underdog because of their championships, but they really are, because they're an 11 seed. They were in the first 4. It's incredible that they are where they are.
Yeah, no, beating Michigan State, I remember in that first 4 in, and then like you said, I mean, they're a prestigious franchise, but who wants to live in California with all the crap they always got going on there anyways? So I'm good on them.
When I was watching the game the other night, I was like, who do I pull for here? And I'm like, Michigan? Yeah. Whitmer? Nah. California? Newman? Nah. We're both a bunch of loons. I'm not pulling for them.
Amen to that.
You and see, and the problem with the other game is, so you got essentially Seattle versus Los Angeles in one game, right? And then the other game is like the battle for the state of Texas. So that's the problem, is that there's not enough diversity in these games where you can find someone to pull for just for argument's sake.
Yeah,
when you're at the ACC, SEC, or Big Ten in the Final Four, it gets real dull real fast.
It gets dull real fast, and my bracket's so bad I've left that in the trash a long time ago. So
I haven't even looked at, since Illinois got knocked out, I haven't even looked at mine because that's why I'm cutting down the nets.
Yeah, no, same here. So it's ugly, and like you said, I don't have a lot of. I believe they're both Saturday night. I'm not sure which one's first though. Do you?
I believe Houston game is the first game. It's at 5:00 Eastern and 8:30 Eastern. So I believe Gonzaga UCLA is the late game. I'm almost positive.
Makes sense.
You know, because that's the more of the two games. That's the one that you're more likely to get people to actually tune in for. Now, the good thing that's working for that is, I was looking at the baseball schedule that night because I said, you know what, I might end up watching baseball over this. You know, normally I'm locked into the Final Four. It's a terrible slate for baseball that night. Most of the games are played earlier in the day.
They're trying to get everything done with, huh?
Right. Well, they were probably anticipating the Final Four. Baseball is usually pretty good about that they step out of the way for championships. They don't want to compete against, you know, game 2 or game 3 of your season is not as important as the Final Four. Baseball gets that. So they did a very good job of doing that. But if you look at the lineup for, I think the White Sox Angels is the only game that I would say is a good game that night, 9:00 Eastern. The rest of it's junk. After Brewers Twins is fun, but I think you gotta be a fan of one of those teams to actually watch that. But you got Corbin Burns versus Berrios. That's a really good game if you're into pitching. But other than that, most of the other games that you would consider a good matchup, that they started either 4:10 Eastern or earlier. So that's the one thing they got going for them. But I think a lot of people go, screw it, man. We haven't been out to dinner in forever. Let's just do that. And it's the night before Easter. And that doesn't happen very often. So that can put a cramp into your plans, because if you normally do things like barbecue and have people over for the Final Four and all that junk, or go out and, party and whatnot, and let's drink some beers and watch some basketball, that's off the table, because you can't be all freaking hungover McGillicuddy walking into freaking church, seeing moms and them, going, hey, what's going on? And you smell like a brewery and you're sweating and farting. You can't do that, man. It's Easter. Easter's the one time that you got to, if you go to church, you got to be dressed to the nines and not smelling like a jackass, so
got to be presentable.
Yeah. Remember my younger days pulling a couple of those stunts, and that did not go over well, man. I always went with a couple of buddies of mine. Their parents were big time Catholics, and we always had to go to mass, sunrise service too, man. And for some reason, we get freaking just plowed the night before. It's idiots, man. Bunch of clowns. It's like, I don't know. Sunrise service was at 6-7 o'clock in the morning, and we would go out and party till like 3, 4, 5 o'clock. Set our alarms, still legally drunk.
Yeah,
show up out there, man. And I mean, it looked like when we would pull up in that old freaking Chevy Malibu that my buddy Tom had, you might as well have been pulling up in a clown car, man. You're all coming out smelling. Oh, God, it was terrible.
You look like crap. The parents are only a few feet away.
Yeah, I haven't drank on Easter Eve in years. But, man, when we were young, we used to tie it on, because now you always had to actually show up and stay for sunrise service. But what we did most of the year to get his parents off their back is that we would, it was 2 brothers, and then there was a cousin. The cousin used to be a regular on the show here until, he passed away about a year and a half ago.
Sorry about that.
Yeah, it's, it's one of those things I hate bringing it up, because I do I do miss my friend like immensely, but we would always pull this stunt. And Eric, Big E, the one that was on the show, would always laugh about this, is we would stop by the Catholic church, and you know how they got pamphlets in the back.
Yep.
We would go by and grab the pamphlets, listen to like 3 minutes of whatever they were preaching about that day, and then leave. And because we're all hungover, and we would all go eat some big breakfast, and then that way we could actually tell his parents we were there because we had the pamphlet, and B, what he was talking about. And our buddy Todd was he was a little older than everybody, so he everyone kind of followed his lead. He would stand there, and as soon as he got something in his head that he knew that he could remember, to tell his parents exactly what the service is about, he would stare at the priest, and then he would look at us and go, "Okay." And as soon as he said "Okay," we'd all freaking haul ass out the back door. His parents would be there, but they sat at the very front. We would stand in the very back. This was like every Sunday. It was asinine and ridiculous that they thought we were doing the right thing. They knew, but they kept it with a facade just to go, all right, at least they made the effort, whatever.
You guys got there.
Yeah. So, and I would always, so my parents were never super religious. I'm like, why am I getting dragged into this crap? And they put a tie on. I'm like, fair enough.
Guess I got to do it.
Before we switch gears, I've got Gonzaga winning the whole damn thing.
I'm in agreement with you. I just can't see him being like you mentioned with your funny quote saying like they're 47 deep. That Timmy guy cracks me up. The old school look with the the stash and the headband. I just think they got too much going for him this year. And everyone always says off their history they won't be cutting down the nets. But this tournament, I think we clearly seen. I think even historically by KenPom, they're ranked one of the best of all time. So I think they're pulling down the nets.
Hey, let me ask you something. I was trying to look it up this morning, and they didn't have the news out last night. And I hate this because I'm a big proponent of never ask a question you don't know the answer to, but I have not seen it. So I'm thinking they have not released it. To your knowledge, have they released the names of the 5 Washington Nationals that tested positive and won't be involved in opening day?
You know what? That is honestly a great question. I'm just going to check my source.
Okay. Because I have not seen it, and everything that I tried to pull up a second ago ended up being crap. Like they would say they would just have the 5 national. I thought I found the link, and then come to find out they were referencing last year's. Remember when Soto missed opening day?
Yep.
So but I haven't seen it on fantasy, because sometimes they'll put that alert on a player. Hey, this guy's tested positive. So I don't even know.
So the only update at all that I see here is manager Mike Rizzo revealed on Wednesday that one player has tested positive for the virus. Unfortunately, there's 4 close contacts to that player.
So only right. So, but we don't know who
we do not know who the names are, but they just say one has COVID and they had to knock out 4 close contacts at this time.
Okay. Gotcha. So that kind of sucks, just, not knowing.
Well, that's what I hate for fantasy. Like you talked about fantasy. It's so like, okay, we all have things to do out there today. You're starting lineup, but you get your positive test. You don't know the player. All of a sudden you can miss on that. It's a little frustrating sometimes with that because we all play fantasy baseball, obviously.
Right. By the way, speaking of fantasy baseball, I cannot believe this guy was dropped in one of our leagues.
Who was dropped?
And I picked him up. I actually, so we do the $100 waiver for the entire year.
Okay.
And I hate spending money right out the gate. I
don't blame you.
But I went ahead and spent $7 because I was like, Trent Grisham was dropped.
Oh, wow.
And this guy, when he comes back, because he's on the IL, but he's not. I mean, he should. It's a hamstring. They're saying that he should be back sometime early to mid-April. I'm trying to figure out see who dropped him was Doug. Doug dropped him.
Sometimes you feel like, is there something I don't know?
Doug drafted this guy and for $13, it was an auction draft.
Right.
And drops him the first time he gets hurt. I found that very strange. Anyways, that was in the
well, I drafted Mondesi, and they already put him on the DL. I was like, come on, that's my steals right there.
Oh, I got him in my freaking keeper league.
I was like, come on.
And I was like, I didn't even know he was hurt.
Me either.
It was something that happened late in spring training. I finally read up on. I was like, well, good God. They did that, and we're going to get to the predictions here in a second. But spoiler alert, I'm leaning heavy on the Royals.
I heard that yesterday.
That's my shot. Yeah. So I don't know if I would have done that if I knew Mondesi was going to start out on the IL, but it is what it is. I'm going to say it with my chest. Go Royal. We'll see where this takes us. Oh, hell. I was looking for the list and it's right in front of me. Okay. Let's go ahead and start this because it usually takes a while to get through this.
No problem.
We're doing divisions. We're doing wild cards, doing World Series and who wins it. And then also today, I want to add Rookie of the Year. So just keep that in mind.
Ooh, okay.
Okay.
Is there like a clear front runner, or you think it's a pretty good group?
What's that?
You think the rookies is a pretty good group, or you think there's a pretty clear front runner for that? Like the Rookie of the Year?
Yeah. For which league?
The National League.
The National League, I think it's going to be between Brian Hayes of Pittsburgh and Ian Anderson. And it's really going to come down to who has a more phenomenal rookie season, because Ian Anderson is still considered a rookie. I'm banking on Ian Anderson, but if Brian Hayes has the advantage because he plays the offensive position. So if he goes out there and does something fantastic, like hits 25, 30 home runs, that's going to jump off the page. Doesn't matter how well Ian Anderson pitches, unless it's like a Cy Young type of year. So I would think Brian Hayes is probably going to win it, but I'm going to lean with Ian Anderson because I saw what he can do. Brian Hayes is a phenomenal athlete, but it can usually be a long 162 for a batter.
Right. Yep.
What about you?
I those two names came to mind. I was looking at American League right now. I'll save it for a little bit. I'm between a few guys right now. So as we swift through my MLB picks, I'll have those couple at the end because I'm stuck between the couple names you mentioned and others.
Okay. Well, let's go ahead and start with the American League, and let's get with the American League West, and we'll work our way east. Who do you have winning the American League West this year?
So is the other people have mentioned on the show this week. I hate doing it, but I'm going with the Astros by default in a way. I always try to like the Angels, but it's like they can never get it through their head that they need pitching, and I feel like they just keep adding hitting. And I like the A's too, but I just think the Astros end up coming out of that division at the top. And then I had Angels second, A's third. I think I hit, the Mariners fourth and the Rangers fifth. Yep.
Okay, but to win it, you've got who?
Astros.
Okay, so that's what we're focusing on today is who's going to win these divisions.
Yeah, no, sorry.
So no, that's okay. I was trying to do two things at once, to be honest.
No problem.
So you've got the Astros winning it.
Mm-hmm.
And then we will get to the wild cards, but let's get the division winners first.
Not a problem.
By the way, I had Oakland winning it. The consensus looks like has been Houston or the Angels. I'm looking at, so I've got Justin, me, Doug, Steven, Sean, and now you. So a 6-person panel. I'm not going to ask guys that don't follow Major League Baseball to do this, so that's why there's only 6. But
Oakland's always sneaky.
They are. And I believe more in the demise of Houston and the inability of the pitching staff in Los Angeles than I do believe in the greatness of Oakland. And so that's why they've got some players that I've got my eye on. One in particular, AJ Puck, pitched at the University of Florida a few years ago. And when he's on, he's lights out. He pitched phenomenally last Saturday night. I watched that. So I've got him on almost every one of my fantasy teams now because there's a good chance he's going to start as the fifth starter there in Oakland. But we'll see how he does. There's usually rookies, bumps and bruises. He'll probably end up in the bullpen at some point, but I went ahead and took a flyer on him. The Central. Now this, this is right down your alley.
Yeah.
Are you going go White Sox, or are you going somewhere else?
I am, but here's the thing. I did take a long look at the Minnesota Twins. I know you said about the Royals, but obviously now the Mondesi thing has a little change in there, maybe with the surprise, but Cleveland, Detroit, I don't know. I just went White Sox slightly over Minnesota.
I took the White Sox as well. And I was such on the fence about it that I actually have the Twins scratched out on my piece of paper. It's the only one that I changed the last second. I said, screw it, I'm going with the White Sox. I'm a little worried about the Twins and some of their players of Father Time catching them. And when you've got guys like Nelson Cruz and Josh Donaldson did not look good last year. Now, it was a short season. We'll put that away. But he's also like 35, 36 years old at this point.
I thought his career would be over a while ago, and then he rebirthed it, honestly.
What's that? I can barely hear you.
Sorry. I said I was thinking that sorry, my headphones. I got this new headphone, and I'm not liking it all of a sudden.
Yeah, all of a sudden your volume went down really, really low.
How is it right now?
Terrible. It's really, really low. I would say try unplugging it and plugging it back in. I feel like you hit something. Maybe the anyways. But the White Sox, in my opinion, are just top to bottom. They're young, they're talented, 162 game season. I'm betting against Minnesota because of the age. So let's get a test from you. Don't just sit there.
How we sounding now?
I mean, try it with the headset one more time. I don't know what the hell you're doing. Jesus Christ. Anyways, we'll move on to the American League East. I had the New York Yankees. Who are you going with the American League East?
The American League East, I got the New York.
All right, it's really low. Just yank it out, and we'll go without it. It's probably something minor. You'll figure it out after the show. Don't worry about it. American League East. Who are you going with?
I'm going with the New York Yankees.
Okay. Yeah, I'm with you. I mean, how the hell do you beat the Yankees in 162 games? The problem with the Rays is that they got rid of their two best starting pitchers. That's a lot of pressure to put on your bullpen. And the problem with the Blue Jays, in my opinion, is the same thing. I get the same feeling about the Blue Jays that I get with the LA Angels. There's going to be a lot of runs scored, but unfortunately on both sides. I don't believe in their starting pitching. And so I think they're going to be a fun team to watch, but 162 game season, you're going to tell me that pitching staff is going to keep it together? I just don't see it. What say you?
No, yeah, I mean, I like the division as a whole in the American League East between the Yankees, Rays, and Blue Jays. I think there could be some electricity, but the Orioles and Red Sox rosters not fans of. So I went Yankees clearly to get that division there. So I'm all in agreement.
I think the Red Sox could shock some people. I think they could be more competitive, but Baltimore is just an absolute dumpster fire right now. They are definitely building for. I mean, when Matt Harvey and Felix Hernandez are two of your bigger names on your spring roster, your question isn't whether or not you're any good. Your question is whether or not you're even a Major League Baseball team in 2021. That's great if that was 2014. You got a hell of a 1-2 punch, but those two guys have not been worth a hoot in a long time. Let's go ahead and take that quick break. So real quick, who are your wildcard teams?
Actually, I stay in the division with the Blue Jays and the Rays as my wild card teams.
Wow, both of them?
I'm going 3 out of 5 from the same division.
Wow. Okay. So you're just not believing in any of the divisions, essentially?
Yeah, I mean, like I did like the Twins a little bit, I mentioned, but especially in the Astros, I wasn't a big fan there. So no, I'm just going to say 3 in the AL East and then keep everything else with the White Sox and the Astros.
Wow. I mean, I think Major League Baseball would love that because they always love it when the Eastern teams are doing well because there's more eyes on the television. But that would be an upset to me. I keep hoping that we get a 24 or 25th hour decision right before first pitch, like we did last year, where remember it was like 2 or 3 hours before first pitch, they came out and announced that they were going to expand the playoffs for the season. I think a lot of people forget that it happened on the day of opening day, about 3 hours before first pitch. I don't think it's going to happen, but I really wish they would. But I don't want to see 8 teams.
No.
Give me 6 or 7 in each league. 8's too much. 8 smells like the NBA or NHL. I cannot wait for the NHL season to get over with and go to the playoffs. This is about the most boring crap that they've ever come up with the whole they're playing like series like they do in baseball. And that's fine if you're doing them back to back. For Christ's sake, they're putting them. You'll play the same team all week.
I was going to say, I felt like the Blackhawks played the Tampa Bay Lightning for a week straight.
I know what they were trying to do, but it was a terrible idea. It's extremely boring. We'll be back in a flash here on the Armchair Quarterbacks. Opening day. Let's go.
Dude, there is an epidemic of gold-digging whores in this country. And every night I put on the news, and I'm waiting for someone to address it. Every night, never see it, you know? And every night I bring up gold-digging whores, and the whole crowd pulls back like I'm up here talking about Bigfoot, right? Like I'm saying the moon's made out of cheese or something. Talking about whores, people. They're everywhere. How many? How many more great men are going to get chopped in half before we do something? Why is it so quiet in here?
Armchair.
CBS Sports Radio.
You're listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on CBS Sports Radio, #1 sports station.
Good morning, and this is your Armchair Quarterbacks Sports Flash. It's opening day in baseball, and that's really all we give a damn about. So here we go. First pitch is 1:05 Eastern. Toronto versus New York. Ryu up against Garrett Cole. Cleveland against Detroit at 1:10. Shane Bieber versus Matthew Boyd. The Twins and Brewers will do battle at 2:10. Maeda versus Woodruff. And Baltimore and Boston, same start time. It's Means versus Eovaldi. At 2:20 Eastern, the Chicago Cubs take the field in Wrigley. Kyle Hendricks against Chad Kuhl. And at 3:05 Eastern, it's the Atlanta Braves and Max Fried going head-to-head versus Aaron Nola and the Philadelphia Phillies against the backdrop of the Liberty Bell. At 4:10, you got the Cardinals and Reds. Jack Flaherty versus Luis Castillo. Should be a hell of a opening day in where Major League Baseball all began in Cincinnati 152 years ago. The Texas Rangers and Kansas City Royals are also starting at 4:10 Eastern. Kyle Gibson versus Brad Keller, along with Arizona and San Diego, Madison Bumgarner versus Yu Darvish. The Rays and Marlins in Miami, Tyler Glasnow versus Sandy Alcantara. And the national ESPN game will be the Dodgers versus the Rockies, Clayton Kershaw versus Marquez. At 7:09 on ESPN, the New York Mets and Jacob deGrom travel to D.C. to take on Max Scherzer and the 2019 world champion Washington Nationals. In your late games, 10:05 Eastern, White Sox at Angels, Lucas Giolito against Dylan Bundy. At 10:07, Houston and Oakland, Greinke versus Bassett. And the last game of the night at 10:10 Eastern, San Francisco goes to Seattle. It's Kevin Gausman versus Marco Gonzalez. Enjoy opening day, folks. We missed out on this last year. And that's your Armchair Quarterback Sports Flash. Stay tuned for more of the Armchair Quarterbacks radio show and YouTube Live. Please like, subscribe, and share our show today. The Armchair Quarterbacks, your first choice for sports talk, live from the First Coast.
Hey, Jacksonville, winter is the perfect time to start planning for your healthy, pest-free spring lawn with True Green, America's #1 lawn care company. True Green's science-based approach and local expertise will help give your lawn the year-round care it needs to be thick and weed-free. Go to truegreen.com/radio to save 50% on your first service. Just call 866-946-5956 or go to truegreen.com/radio today and get a lawn to be proud of.
It is played everywhere, in parks and playgrounds and prison yards, in back alleys and farmers' fields, by small boys and old men, raw amateurs and millionaire professionals. It is a leisurely game that demands blinding speed, the only game in which the defense has the ball. It follows the seasons, beginning each year with the fond expectancy of springtime and ending with the hard facts of autumn. Americans have played baseball for more than 200 years. While they conquered a continent, warred with one another and with enemies abroad, struggled over labor and civil rights and the meaning of freedom.
Good morning. Welcome back here to CBS Sports Radio and the Armchair Quarterbacks Wake Up Show. And it's opening day, thank God. You know, we had a debate going back and forth on the YouTube channel. Joey, Brian evidently is not much of a baseball fan. He says it's boring, and everyone else is pretty much killing him.
I saw how yesterday he put like the snooze.
Yeah, and it's funny because it's like, dude, if you don't understand baseball, I don't know what to tell you other than the fact that, you know, you might want to check your IQ, because baseball is, I love that intro, and that's why I played it. It's the only sport where the offense does not have the ball, right? In every other sport, when you're on offense, you have the ball in your hand. It's the only sport where the offense never has the ball. And it's their job, and it's the most difficult. And that has been talked about till the cows came home. It's the most difficult thing to do in sports. So usually if you don't like baseball, it's because you sucked at it. And if you sucked at it, it's 'cause you don't have good eye coordination. I mean, that's basically what it is, because it's very difficult. And don't kill yourself if you're terrible at baseball, because it's very difficult, especially once you get to the much higher level. Don't tell me how you were great in, you know, when you were 7 years old, and they were sitting the ball on the tee, right? You know, or your parent was pitching to you. So don't at me with that BS. But when you've got a ball coming at you and you don't know where it's going, but your job is to hit it anyways, you couldn't have come up with a more difficult task. And the strategy that goes on in the game. Now the NBA, you can take that and just jam it. I'm over it. Baseball's here. I don't even have to pretend like I'm watching the NBA anymore.
No, and I mean, just to go on to your point, I mean, in high school I played and stuff, and I ended up becoming pitcher only because I mean, hitting just becomes so hard, and luckily my arms stayed together until college. But yeah, no, it's like you said, the defense has the control until the batters got that little chance and to see what happens and make plays. So I love the sport of baseball. Love that we're back with a normal opening day. What a blessing.
Absolutely. I mean, it took too damn long for us to get a second opening day. You know, it's the only sport that had to do it too. Every other sport had their season begin normally, but baseball was starting just as this pandemic was beginning. But anyways, let's get back into the predictions. It's the end of the show, I'll be honest, before you know it. And I do want to get into that NFL Week 17 before we leave. Or 17th game. It's actually Week 18. So National League real quick. Where are you going? Start with the West and then work your way east.
Well, as I start to sound better now, sorry about the fans out there for the difficulties, but
it happens.
Starting with the National League East, you said I got a lot of people are going to be surprised by this. I don't have the Mets in my top 3. I got the Nationals representing that division.
So you got the Nationals winning and Atlanta finishing second?
Yeah, and I'll get to my wild cards, but yes, I have Atlanta second. Yep.
Okay. And that one is interesting. I believe that Washington is pretty good. My only concern is the health of Strasburg.
I agree.
Only concern, because if they don't have the Strasburg Scherzer 1-2 punch, that really good pitching staff becomes very, very basic. So I ended up going with the Braves winning the division, but I do have the Mets making a wild card. By the way, my wild card in the AL was the Angels and Kansas City.
Okay.
So that was my big, bold prediction, was that the Kansas City Royals are going to put enough together this year to find a way into the wild card game.
Hey, I like it. You got to have some. I have wild picks always, so I like it.
All right, so where are you going after that?
Should we take it? What do you want to do? Take it to the NL Central?
Yes.
Okay, so I got the Cardinals first. After listening to the show yesterday, man, you guys made a good argument for the Brewers, but I still have beat with my hometown bias probably to Cubs second and Brewers third.
Okay. Yeah, the wild card thing about the Brewers, and I almost put them in the wild card game, is that how can that bullpen hold up for a whole 162? Because they for people who don't watch Milwaukee baseball, it's Tampa Bay North is what it is. They have Woodruff, they have Corbin Burns, but outside of that, they try to piece it together with bullpen games. And so can that bullpen, which obviously is anchored by Josh Hader, arguably the best reliever in the game, if not he's top 2 or 3. That's my concern with Milwaukee and how many runs they'll score.
A little breaking news here. The Red Sox have been postponed today.
COVID, or is it?
I think it might be rain. I'm not sure if it's rain or COVID. Didn't mean to cut you off, but the Red Sox are officially PPD.
Okay, I'll look into that. What do you have in the West?
In the West, as we all know, it's the battle of the two monsters. I do have. I've been back and forth. Dodgers first, Padres second. I wanted to put the Padres first. I just think the Dodgers, if healthy, are just too loaded.
And then who do you have for your wild cards?
Padres and Braves.
Now, I didn't get a chance to write it down at the break. Your AL wild cards were.
I was wild.
In Toronto, right?
Yep, I did the wacky 3 division.
I went on a limb there and put San Diego to win the only reason why I did it is I think eventually after 8 years of dominance, you're bound for some bad luck. So I'm looking at, first of all, I don't know if Trevor Bauer's worth $40 million. He did it essentially for a full Major League Baseball season, the last half of 2019, and then of course 2020 was just only a 60-game season, right? But all in all, Trevor Bauer has been very up and down his entire career. So you spent $40 million on that guy. You better hope you better hope he continues to do what he did. I'm not saying he won't, but I have as many questions about Trevor Bauer as I would of Yu Darvish. And San Diego, I think it's going to mean more to them. So that's why I think they might be able to hang in there and get the division. And the Dodgers, for this entire run, they've really never had a devastating injury. And so the law of averages say you're eventually going to run into one. I don't wish injury on anybody, but the law of averages say that a Cody Bellinger or something gets banged up and can't play for the majority of the year. Then how does that affect everything else?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, a lot of these teams could be an injury away from some bad backlash. So it's a dogfight. I think it'll be a dogfight.
Your Cy Youngs and MVPs are who?
It's funny. Literally just took the name right in my mouth. I actually am going with Trevor Bauer in the National League. I think he's going to continue, and I think the Dodgers are going to put on a big run. He is a little bit of an interesting guy and stuff like that. But, hey, I'm going to say the big run continues from what he did, and he gets that. And then for my National League MVP, I'm staying in the same division and going with my first fantasy pick from yesterday, Manny Machado.
Oh, Machado. Okay.
I know it's not your everyday name, but I mean, let's face it, he's always been talented enough. I do think with a stronger lineup now and more balance.
I will say this. I'll tell you this. Regardless who wins the MVP, I think he's the most valuable player to the Padres because I think we know what we're going to get out of Tatis, and Tatis is more likely to win the MVP of the Major League Baseball. But if Machado doesn't have the kind of year that he had last 6 weeks of the season, the Padres could be in big time trouble.
Oh, you're 100% right.
And what do you got in the American League?
It actually was kind of funny. I was listening to you guys yesterday with the little time I had, and I matched the guy Berrios. So I'm going to go with Berrios from Minnesota. I don't know. There's something about that kid that I really like, and I think this year it's going to take off. And I'm going to go with another young guy. I know a little off the map again, but since I have the Blue Jays making a little bit of a run, I like Bichette there.
Now that's an interesting one. It's funny. I've actually seen Berrios picked as an American League Cy Young favorite on a lot of different outlets, and he had kind of a down year last year. That's why I was a little off. I went a little chalk. I went Garrett Cole, but Max Fried is my NL Cy Young candidate. He's going to be the opening day pitcher today, hopefully, because if that was weather related in Boston, Philly could be shut down too.
And it was weather related, just confirmed weather related.
Thank God we're back to the old fashioned rain out.
Right when you have a mini heart attack with the PPDs now.
Yeah. Oh, God. Postponed for 17 days. They need to. They were scheduled for like 2:00 Eastern. They couldn't have played later in the evening.
And like you said too, I mean, not to get up too much. I don't know. They got the weird day off. Maybe they just play tomorrow since maybe they're off.
That would be awesome. It gives us another game to watch.
You're right. We need something because I hate that break between. I agree.
As bad as it'll be to make my eyes hurt to watch the Baltimore Orioles play baseball, it at least gives us something else to watch, and it gives Red Sox fans a chance to watch other games, and then tomorrow they can focus on theirs because there's not a whole lot of games on. So yeah, I actually like that.
Yep. Hopefully that happens.
I got Nathan Eovaldi in a fantasy league though. I think they screwed me. I
know. I'm looking through fantasy now with like, oh my God, now Bogarts I don't got. But
I got a whole thing I got to do after the show, man. I'm in so many damn leagues. It's ridiculous. I said I wasn't going to do it this year, and then I got overexcited, and here I am. Garrett Cole, Max Fried are my Cy Youngs, and then I went Mookie Betts and Jose Abreu for the MVPs. because I think the White Sox are going to have that good of a season, and Jose Abreu will be the reason why. And people will constantly be talking about how they don't have Eloy Jimenez, which I don't think is as big a deal as people are making it out to be. Because though he's a good player, he wasn't the straw that stirs the drink, as they talk about, right?
And he's not bright. He just runs in the damn wall all the time. Between him and management, get him out of the outfield.
Well, I wasn't going to start
God.
picking on the guy's intelligence. I mean, I was just going to.
No, sorry. I have to go off a little bit.
Man, he's a dumbass.
Running into the wall in spring training, you're out of here. Sorry, I didn't mean to question anyone, but that really irked me. That really irks me that he's not a DH.
Well, I don't think they can do it because you essentially have to put Abreu there.
I know. Yeah, they do have tough decisions. It just, we've seen this 5 or 6 times now of the running into the wall, and it just.
Well, and now he's hurt. Yeah. So maybe he'll start understanding what warning track means.
Yeah, there's dirt out there, right?
You're running and your back is to the wall, and you can tell you're not on grass anymore. Slow the hell down.
Put a stop sign out there. Jesus.
Normally, you put your hand back to see where the damn wall is. Your MVPs. I mean, sorry, your rookie of the years.
And off to my rookie of the years. After doing some quick research on it, because I did not fully take a look into this. In the American League, I'm going to go with, I'm going to probably botch his name. I'm not huge on the Mariners this year, but Jared Kelenic, outfielder.
Okay.
He's the one prospect on this list that, I mean, I think just knocked the doors off last summer with his performance. I believe it was summer camp or something I saw a little of, so I'm going to go with him in the AL.
My AL prediction, I want to go with Wander Franco, but my fear is they're going to leave him down in the minors too long. And as opposed to just bring him up a couple weeks into the season, like they've done to others, if they leave him down until the June Super 2 date hits, then we're talking about him having a hard time eclipsing. So talent-wise, I believe it's Wander Franco, but I'm going to hedge my bets. Same team. Randy Rosareno is still eligible as a rookie of the year, and he was just phenomenal last year in the postseason. So I'm going to go with him. Who are you going in the National League?
Man, I would still to this question. I've been stuck between Ian Anderson and Dylan Carlson because I think Dylan Carlson, after a bad last year, is really going to pop off. I'll go with Ian Anderson as much as I want to say Dylan Carlson. I want people to really remember that one because I do think he's going to have a great year, but I think the Braves he'll slightly sneak that out.
And then, of course, I went with Ian Anderson as well. But I'm telling you, Brian Hayes of the Pittsburgh Pirates, if you get a chance to watch Pirates baseball this year, y'all, lock in on their third baseman. He is the son of Charlie Hayes. So you old school baseball fans, you know, would remember Charlie Hayes that also played for the Pittsburgh Pirates. And he hasn't been out of the league that long, maybe a decade or so. So that is Charlie Hayes' son, much more athletic than his father. His father, you know, I mean, his father wasn't like Pablo Sandoval, but he was a husky guy, had a lot of good pop. But this kid's legit, man. I don't know who the mother is. But Brian Hayes is the result of a Major League Baseball pitcher, and I'm thinking like maybe hitter. I'm sorry, I'm thinking Charlie Hayes like spawned with Wonder Woman or something because Brian Hayes is very, very talented and fun to watch. But I'm just gonna go with the fact that they're more likely to give it to they haven't done it yet. But the media is bound to go, we're going to give it to the best rookie on the best team. It's because it's what they do at the MVP every year.
Complete team game, but let's go. You know, if you're not on the playoffs, you can't win the award for an individual.
It's asinine.
Yep.
Because the most valuable player should be the best player in the league. Of course, that's always been the argument is, should they change it to the most outstanding player? Because valuable means wins. No, look, Andre Dawson, I know you're probably too young to remember this, but Andre Dawson played for a last place Cubs team and won the MVP because he hit like 49 home runs that year. And this was in an era in the late 80s where 49 was just unbelievably unheard of. And he was so good and no one else had a comparable season. You had to give it to Andre Dawson.
Absolutely.
And they have been giving it to Mike Trout quite a bit. And of course his teams suck. But I think you're going to start seeing the tide turn. It's just like the Heisman. We no longer have a Heisman Trophy winner. We have the best player on what's perceived as the best team, winning the Heisman every year. There was a time where there could be a running back out in the Midwest somewhere and having a phenomenal year, and his team's like barely 500, and that guy could win the Heisman. Rashawn Salam did it for Colorado in the early 90s. Barry Sanders was on a terrible Oklahoma State team. He won it. But now in today's age, they would never give it to someone if their team was in the Final Four.
Disgraceful.
Which is stupid. It makes absolutely no sense. Let's go ahead and switch gears before we have to jump. Oh, sorry. World Series champion. And who are they playing? Sorry.
Okay, no problem at all. We have a lot to talk about. Little time as always. Let's go with the. I hated to do. I went with the Dodgers over the Toronto Blue Jays. I think the Blue Jays make a big pitching trade deadline splash, and their young hitting with the mix of getting. I just forgot the Astros guy's name. That Springer. I think their lineup stays consistent, and they add a pitcher at the deadline, but Dodgers prevail at the end. As much as I wanted to pick the Padres, I got Dodgers over Toronto World Series.
I went straight homer, and I went Braves over the Yankees. So mainly because I want revenge from 1996.
Well, I mean, I think the Braves are one of the most top to bottom balanced teams from, and I know you obviously you're a Braves fan, but I mean they're one of the most balanced teams to me in the Major League Baseball.
And once you get in there, and now they've been through it once you get into the playoffs, it's just about execution, and sometimes you need a little luck. And so if it plays out the way I have it playing out, Dodgers Mets in the wild card, and they face DeGrom, and DeGrom knocks them out, and they never get a chance to get into the dance at all, into the real dance. So yep. That's how I have it going down. Real quick before we have to jump off of here, the National Football League, they're going to a 17th game. They're not adding a bye week. What are your thoughts on that? Because I feel like they should have just went ahead and given us an 18th game so it would be even, because this goofy the AFC is the host team this year and the NFC is the host team next year, and it's going to continue to go back and forth, is just stupid to me. Uneven. You give them 18. You go to 2 preseason games, which is all we need, and give them an extra bye week. And if you give them an extra bye week, it takes us to President's Day weekend. And so most of the country would have the following Monday off.
Oh.
And so that's what I would have done. What say you?
I first off love the preseason idea. I think cutting it from 4 to 3 doesn't do anything because starters only play in a couple anyways. I think 2 preseason. And the more I think about it, I like your strategy on 18. Get 2 bye weeks in there. Finish with the present. You had a lot of good points to bring to the table. But going off the current, the only reason I like the 17th game this year, and I'll be completely honest, is because somehow it ended up being for my team, the Buccaneers will play at Indianapolis. So obviously, in my family, we'll be going to that game, and that will be fun. But outside of that, I don't think they really planned it well. Like I said, 3 preseason to 4 doesn't do much, and no extra bye week and an extra game. A lot of unhappy players, even though the NFLPA agreed to it.
Yeah, it's. I was surprised that they agreed to it without getting an extra bye week.
That guy might get fired sooner than later because I'm sure they're not too happy.
Well, I just don't understand why you would agree to this without getting the extra bye week. And why would the NFL want to stretch it out an extra week? You get an extra week of advertisements.
And they're all about the spotlight. I don't get it.
Yeah, I just it would have been more organic too to get it to President's Day weekend, which I just thought was an obvious thing that they were going to do.
Yeah, well, at least like half the world is off on it, probably. Or the United States, I mean.
Yeah. Well, anyone working for a government facility, if you're in the retail or if you're in the restaurant business, no, you're not off. But other than that, pretty much everybody's off.
Yeah, no, I
don't at me with, I got to work. Yeah, jackass. I was in the restaurant business for freaking 2 decades. I had to work every holiday.
No, it is what it is. But I think your 18-game proposal is better than the current one at hand.
I didn't even understand that people got Christmas off for the longest time. It's like, what is this nonsense you talk about having Christmas off? It's time to turn back time and get the hell out of here on opening day, man. I cannot wait.
Oh, boy.
3.5 hours to first pitch. All right, here we go. On this date in 1914, right-hander Rube Waddell, who once struck out a record 349 batters in one season, dies of tuberculosis at age 37. For people who are not familiar with this story, the eccentric Hall of Famer compiled a record of a 193 and 43 record, 2.16 ERA during his 13 seasons with the Colonels, A's, Pirates, and Browns. He is my all-time favorite player because he is one of the most eccentric players that have ever played the game. He used to, so it didn't matter where he played. They had to keep an eye on this guy because he would take off like a bat out of hell if he heard the old fire, the old school fire trucks from the turn of the century. They had the bells clang-a-lang-a-lang-a-lang. They said he would just take off like a bat out of hell during a game, even when he was playing in, to go see where the fire was. He was like a dog. And they said he showed up routinely right before the game would start, coming out of the crowd, beer in hand, not even warm up, and go out there and just pitch a masterpiece. And one of his pregame traditions was he would take ice cold water, bucket of ice. So he was doing the ice bucket challenge long before anyone else did. Ice cold bucket water and pour it all over his right arm, because he said if he didn't do it, the people would ask him, "What are you doing?" Is if I don't do that, I'm gonna burn the catcher's mitt up. He would just go. And as the story goes, he couldn't quite remember how many women he married over the years. he was a nut. Him and Mike King Kelly are two of the greatest, or the two greatest sports personalities, and they're both coming from the baseball has the best sports personalities, especially when you go back in the history of it. It's a little different nowadays because you got Instagram and all that stuff. You got to kind of keep to yourself. But back in the day, baseball, what makes baseball great, it's not just the game itself, it's the stories that come from baseball. Unbelievable. So that is that's your turn back time. It's time for birthdays.
It's your birthday today.
This would have been Phil Niekro birthday. We lost him, and I routinely wear his jersey on opening day for the Braves. I'm actually going to wear Hank Aaron's today.
Hey.
But Phil Niekro, lost him way too soon. He would have been 82 years old today. But those guys that are still with us, guys, you probably haven't heard his name in a long, long time. And it's hard to believe, 57 years old today. I would have thought he was a little younger. Kevin Duckworth, of course, played for the Trailblazers famously. And he was on the Trailblazers team that went toe-to-toe with Michael Jordan in the finals. John Jumbo Elliott. I don't know if people remember him, played for the Giants. He is 56 years old today, along with Mark Jackson, the broadcaster, the coach that got screwed out of the Golden State Warrior job because wokeness got him in trouble. We say happy birthday to all of those fine gentlemen. And I don't think I'm leaving anybody out, but there's always a list like this long, and I can't get to all of them. What is your walk-off for the day, sir?
I mean, of course, I'm going to leave it at opening day. As we talked about many a times on the show, and you have all week, just blessed to have a normal season with a lot of games today. Hopefully we don't get the COVID creepies crawling in too much besides Washington. And Braves get a win, Cubs get a win, and let's just get this thing going. I think, like you said, this is the sport that takes us fully out with the fandom. Come on now, we got to have a full season here. Let's get this whole thing going and have a great summer. I love the shirt is awesome. I was looking at it earlier. I'm like, he's got the MLB logo on. I'm like, that's a guy drinking a beer.
I don't wear it much because this plastic junk that was printed onto it is very, very sensitive. So when you wash it, you can't freaking dry it normally. And it's got a crack. You can't see it as much on the screen, but it's got some cracks on it. So I don't wear it often, but opening day, I like to wear that. I've got a really good one for tomorrow. I've been saving that I just ordered. My opening day walk off. By the way, let me ask you something. Assuming you can get all the games, and I don't know if you can or not.
I can.
Put the White Sox and the Cubs aside. What's the one matchup that you're looking forward to? Like maybe a pitching matchup or something like that you're like, I want to see how this goes. Is there a game that jumps out at you today?
If I had to pick out of really quickly, just looking, I would probably go with I want to see, you know what? I want to see Max Fried pitch. I think I'm going to go there.
That should be a fun one because he's going up against Aaron Nola. So
that's what I'm saying. So the Phillies, we know they're always kind of disappointing, but I think it's a great pitching matchup, and let's see how he could do this year.
I'll obviously put the Braves aside because obviously I'm going to watch that game. And the obvious one is DeGrom versus Scherzer, so I'll put that aside. The one that I'm most interested in outside of that would be the Cardinals-Reds because Flaherty has got to be better than he was last year. If he's not, they're going to be in some big-time trouble. Madison Bumgarner interests me, but look, as much as a Bumgarner fan as I am, I think his better days are behind him.
Definitely.
And I just don't think he has the velocity. I still think he's a solid pitcher, but he's not an ace. No. He's forced into that ace role because Arizona no longer has Greinke, but he's not an ace. Not in this stage of his career. There was a time where if my life was on the line, I would want Madison Bumgarner on the hill. That time is not 2021.
Do you still feel that with Max Scherzer if you had one game?
I wouldn't bet against him. I think the guy's a bulldog.
I still love him. That's why I asked you.
Yeah, I think he's a bulldog. Of course, DeGrom, if I was going to do it today, it would be between DeGrom and Cole.
Yeah.
And I think I would have to go Cole because DeGrom's never really pitched in the big game in quite some time. The Mets have been irrelevant for several years. So, he was so young when they were first coming up with, the Matt Harvey. Remember, it was Matt Harvey, DeGrom, and Syndergaard.
Yeah, they even had Steven Matz, right?
Yeah, Matz is up in Toronto now.
Yep.
I think Matz has just always been overrated.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're gonna see Matz get tattooed by the American League East.
I could see it.
I drafted Bogarts the other night. One of the reasons why I drafted him was like, man, he's gonna see a lot of Steven Matz, dude. He's gonna get your fantasy lineup set today, y'all. Great job, brother. We'll see you next Thursday. And if you don't like baseball, get your act together.
Yeah, come on, Brian Cook.
We'll see you tomorrow.
Have a great day.
Goodbye, sweetheart. Well, it's time to go. We're back tomorrow with another
my show. Well, unless we're fired, we'll talk to you then. Goodbye, sweetheart. Goodbye. Goodbye.
Guys and gals, it's time to go. We'll see you on the next show.
Same bat time, same bat channel.
Thanks for listening to the Armchair Quarterbacks on these CBS Sports affiliates and catching the show on YouTube Live. We're here weekdays, 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 Central, 5 Pacific. Find Armchair Quarterbacks on YouTube Live today. Please subscribe and share and take us everywhere you go. The Armchair Quarterbacks, your first choice for Southern sports talk, live from the First Coast.
Gonna get